And now we get to the 14th century, the 1300s. Gombrich entitles this, the Courtiers and Burgers. What's going on here is that the Gothic style that had previously been used in cathedrals was broadening out. Architects were now taking commissions for secular buildings, buildings that didn't have a church purpose, and there's an example in here of that, the Doge's Palace in Venice. We also take a look at how style is moving into images such as statuary for religious purposes that had previously been done in very pattern book sort of ways. There's an example here of a small statue of the Virgin Mary and Jesus in which she's in a very relaxed sort of a curving position, and Jesus is pictured as a baby that's even touching his mother's face, much different than some of the stiff images that we'd seen only recently in other altarpieces. There's an example of how standard pattern book illustrations in illuminated manuscripts might now be accompanied by drawings of informal scenes, things from real life. Quite a difference, and you can see that people of the time really could represent ordinary things in very relaxed and common ways, even though the examples that they were working on at the time of religious art would still look very stiff and formal, following a lot of the standards set in the Middle Ages. And finally, this chapter wraps up with the international style, which was an outgrowth of the Gothic style. Here, artists from various countries, without regard to nationality, more or less evolved a style that started moving in the direction of extreme detail, even though egg tempera paints were still being used. There's two examples here in which the artist uses an extreme amount of detail and is also including some elements of positional perspective or light perspective, chiaroscuro, that is becoming evident, that will move into much greater use in the Renaissance in combination with other forms of perspective, 5 different techniques of perspective that can lend realism to a piece of two-dimensional art. And once again, the chapter concludes with some sketchbook art, things that an artist would be sketching that he or she might not have seen before, for which there was no pattern book illustration, no standard way of representing them. This is really the beginning of the Renaissance era.